Gemini was not to be outdone by ChatGPT. Google is making huge headlines now. Listen, we've been saying Google drops stuff like crazy. It's very quiet, but not this. Gemini 2.0 is out, and people are absolutely thrilled. This is its most advanced AI model to date, obviously, and huge just in terms of its capabilities. Apparently, this new model is twice as fast as 1.5 Pro. I don't know if that's just because this is the Flash version, which tends to
Yeah.
be faster. But I mean, I've been reading a ton about this just like right now. Holy cow, this is like all happening fast and furious. Jaeden, what are you seeing on this?
Yeah, so I'm super, super stoked about this. I guess to kick it off, it's probably good to look at Sundar Pichai's tweet about this and what exactly he said. He said, "We're kicking off the start of our Gemini 2.0 era with Gemini 2.0 Flash." So what I will say about this is that Flash is their kind of like faster light version. It's kind of
Right.
like 01 mini. It's like their mini
Right.
model. So it's faster, it uses less resources, it's cheaper. So that's cool. But what's interesting is essentially they're kicking off like their newest flagship. They're not releasing like the big heavy hitter. They're releasing like the faster version, which I almost wonder if it's to give them a little bit of time to improve the 2.0 Pro. But anyways, aside from that, he said it outperforms 1.5 Pro on key benchmarks at 2 times speed. I'm especially excited to see the fast progress on coding with more to come. Developers can try an experimental version in AI Studio and Vertex AI today. It's also available to try in the Gemini app on the web today. Mobile is coming soon. So people can actually go try this. It's an official launch. It's not just like we're going to be rolling this thing out. I think that's awesome. I also think it's great that developers can actually start using this in AI Studio and Vertex AI. So like the APIs out there for developers to start implementing this. That was a really smart move. I think they should always pair announcements with API being out. But yeah, they showed essentially a benchmark below of how good it was at general reasoning, how good it was at code, how factual it is, how good is it at math, reasoning, long context, image, audio, video. And that brings us to the final point, which I'll kick this over to you, Connor. But it is image, audio, video. Hold up. Image, audio, video. Audio, ChatGPT is not even doing audio. Like OpenAI has audio things, but it's not built into ChatGPT. Video, we just had Sora launch a couple days ago. This is insane. They're literally doing multimodal. It's going to do everything. That's crazy.
So this is where this kind of comes back to this big existential question, folks, right? Which I get asked all the time too. Again, this is AI applied. So this is how we want to think about this. When you're thinking, oh, well, we want to bring this into our company, or what should I be using or something like that? Don't worry about a lot of big tools. Okay, this is a public service announcement. And I hate to say this, Jaeden, you and I are always hugely supportive of these companies that are going against the big boys. But I would much rather be in Jaden's shoes with what he's building with AI Box, which is just taking all these things which already exist and helping you use them. That's essentially what AI Box does. I would not want to be somebody going up against the Googles and everything else. You think you have it made, but then all of a sudden they're crushing audio, video, image, everything else. And here's the thing. Google Gemini was already way ahead in terms of just context window, meaning how much it could take in one fell swoop when you're sort of like writing a prompt or something like that. Gemini was always the league leader in terms of being able to drop video in there and all that kind of stuff. But right now, it really feels like Google is flexing its Google muscles. Right? Look, they have basically unlimited resources, and right now they are showing you that they have been building this thing behind the scenes. It's extremely powerful. Obviously, it's extremely fast, obviously, but all the multimodal capabilities, I think, are what people are going to be really excited about because it's this one-stop shop. Jaeden, if you remember the evolution of ChatGPT, it used to be that you had to go to one model to get, to use DALL-E, and then another model to use Code Interpreter, and another model, and more, all these things are integrating. I think, and Jaeden, tell me what you think about this, it's like they want you to be able to, it's like what ChatGPT search did. ChatGPT wanted you to come over there and not leave if you needed to search the internet. They didn't want you going over to Perplexity. They knew who they're competing against. Google has eyeballs. They've had billions of eyeballs for this long, and they felt it slipping away over the last 24 months. Google is still the biggest, baddest guy out there, right? If
Yep.
they can get everybody on here and just using their model and you not giving anybody an excuse to leave, like a casino with no clocks, that's what they have the power to do, and that's what they're going to do. Is this how you're reading this move by them, or how do
100%.
you see it?
I think Google knows they're at an existential moment for their company.
Yes.
They're starting to flex their muscle, right? They're showing, look, we built this insane quantum computer. We can do a lot of crazy stuff. They said, we're also testing Gemini 2.0 advanced reasoning capabilities. So they don't want to be outdone by OpenAI's new reasoning model. They don't want to
Yep.
be outdone by their new image or audio or text mod. Like, they are really trying to push. It says, it can do overviews and search to help answer more complex and multi-step questions. And it's going to roll out more broadly next year. So that literally is, O1. It's a competitor to OpenAI's O1 reasoning model. The other thing that I do think is really interesting and important to bring up is the fact that they have not shared any samples of the images or audio that this thing can generate. And they said that those features are coming early next year. So while the model's out and the model's cool and you can test it out, we don't actually know how good. So I'm just going to put all of that aside. We don't even have
Yeah.
demos. We
Agreed.
don't even have
Agreed.
cherry picked whatever.
Agreed.
One thing that they've said that I do think is cool, they're using synth ID technology to watermark all of the audio and images that are generated by it.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that essentially is going to make it so that anything that they generate will be able to be flagged as essentially synthetically generated, which I think is great. It's it's these watermarks. You don't see them, you don't hear them, but they're on the files. They're like hidden in there, and I do think that that's cool, and I do think that that's quite useful today to be able to run content through a detector and be able to figure out what's genuinely a genuine piece of content
Right.
and what has
Right.
been AI generated.
I mean, that's so. First of all, we could do an entire podcast on that, right? I mean, like one of the huge things that people have issues with, and is going to be a huge, again, you use the word existential, to a lot of companies is, and I would say almost to humanity, right? Is this real or is it not real? I think that is going to be like the Time magazine cover in 12 months, which is like, is this real or not real? Because again, when you think about how many people are already fooled, and especially I'm thinking about our older generations, by voice, by text, by image, by everything. This is the danger, right? So if they can find a way to watermark this, that is huge. The other thing that you said that I find really interesting is that they're not putting out demos. Look, guys, believe me, I was at Google I/O whenever that was. I've seen some unbelievable stuff that Google's doing. I was actually just at Google about a month ago, and I got to see some really cool stuff that's also coming out that hasn't been released. So make no mistake, it's not when Google says we're not releasing this yet. It's not because they don't have it. It's because they are still red teaming it, which means they're sort of like looking for things that could be destructive to the end user. Number one. But number two, Google is in a different kind of position. When you are at the top, you cannot take big swings for the most part, right? Because if that big swing goes wrong, then everybody's coming for you. It's easier for the little guys to take big swings. Google has to be like IBM. They have to be like somebody who's sort of, slow and steady, and that's who everybody is buying into. In the same way they used to say nobody got fired for buying IBM, nobody gets fired for buying Google. But Google can't screw things up. And I'll tell you what, 2023, end of 2023, early 2024, Google was making some big mistakes. It had you and me, Jaeden, questioning Sundar Pichai's leadership, right? And why is that? Because they were putting out an image generator that immediately went off the rails because it was making, young Filipino women appear as Nazi soldiers in 1942, things like that, because it was building diversity into it. It had a lot of demos that went wrong because it turned out that they were a little, I don't want to say fake, but they were exaggerated. Google is not going to make that same mistake. They're like, we are going to win this race, but we're not going to throw out anything that's going to make headlines for all the wrong reasons. That's why I love what they're doing now. They're just quietly putting out really powerful stuff and not overselling because they don't need to. They're Google.
Yep. I wanted to go through and read some of the comments and the feedback that I'm seeing over on X, because I do think it is a good indication of kind of the pulse of where developers in particular are, how they're coming up with this. People are screenshotting really interesting demos of their voice tools because the API, so developers are able to access their voice stuff. Someone said Google is back. 2025 to 2026 is when Google will rise back to its previous levels. Someone said they're clearly a pathfinder. Someone said that it is mind-blowing. 1 million token context window equals analyzing 1,500 pages at once, plus it's a coding whiz, Logic Pro, and Creative Genius. So I think their context window is bar none, and they're just probably dumping money into that. But I think that's making Google really back in the game. Someone said Perplexity made you guys dance. I'm going to be honest. I do think that is a big chunk of this, even if they're not immediately stealing market share. They know that they will if they don't respond to this. And so, yeah, I think that this is a really big and very positive. It's been very positively received over on X, which is obviously a really big tech kind of community. So I'm excited. I think that Google is kind of back in the game from where they felt like they were in a little bit of a lull. They're putting out some really innovative, really exciting stuff. And yeah, I'm excited to see how this rolls out with everything that they're doing. But they are definitely not sitting in the sidelines. Google is coming for blood. They're showing that they're actively engaged in this. So yeah, we're super excited about everything happening with Gemini 2.0. Listen, you guys,
but also Jaeden, Perplexity made everybody dance, right? I mean, like this is the thing. Like, so Perplexity has done this world a great service. All right, close us out.
100%. And if you enjoyed this episode today, learning this, we brought this to 2 hours after it was announced. Conor and I do not sleep. I can promise you that right now. If you appreciate that, we would love it if you could leave a review for the podcast. That's all we ask. A simple review. We're simple men. We don't require much in life, but a review goes a long way and definitely brings a smile to our face. Thanks so much for tuning into the podcast today. We'll catch you next time.